The conference room on the 67th floor of Sterling Global's Manhattan headquarters buzzed with the electric anticipation of money about to be made. 20 board members sat around the mahogany table, their faces illuminated by the glow of laptops and the late afternoon sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that framed Central Park like a living painting. Maya Richardson closed her presentation with a final click, and the room erupted into applause. $300 million in new contracts. The Meridian campaign had been her baby for 6 months, and she'd just delivered results that exceeded projections by 40%. She allowed herself one moment of satisfaction, one brief, shining moment where she let herself feel the weight of her achievement before her professional mask slid back into place. "Impressive work, Miss Richardson." Nathaniel Cross's voice cut through the applause like a knife through silk. He stood at the head of the table, all 6 feet 3 inches of controlled power, in a charcoal Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Steel-gray eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Your strategic thinking is exactly what this company needs more of." Board members murmured agreement, nodding like bobbleheads. Maya nodded professionally, gathering her presentation materials with practiced efficiency. She needed to escape before the questions started, before someone asked her to explain her success in a way that implied she couldn't possibly have achieved it on her own merit. "Thank you, Mr. Cross. I appreciate the confidence the company has shown in. I'd like to discuss your future here over dinner." Nathaniel's words landed like a bomb in the middle of the conference table. "Tonight, I have a reservation at Per Se at 8. The room went silent. Maya's hands stilled on her portfolio. Every eye in the room swiveled between her and Nathaniel Cross like spectators at a tennis match. She could feel the weight of their stares, the calculations happening behind 20 pairs of eyes. Everyone knew what this meant. Nathaniel Cross didn't do dinner meetings. He certainly didn't do them with employees 40 levels below him on the corporate hierarchy. He was asking her on a date. In front of the entire executive board, she met his gaze and saw the expectation there. The absolute certainty that she would say yes, because everyone said yes to Nathaniel Cross. The man had probably never heard the word no in his entire privileged life. In that moment, Maya saw Janelle's face 6 months ago, mascara-streaked, eyes hollow, sitting on their bathroom floor at 3 in the morning. How did I not see it coming? Her best friend had whispered. He said I was special, different, and I believed him. She heard her mother's voice, tired from working 2 jobs but fierce with love. Powerful men collect women like trophies, baby. Don't ever be someone's trophy. She thought of every time she'd worked twice as hard for half the recognition. Every meeting where she was the only black woman in the room. Every achievement that someone attributed to affirmative action or luck or anything except her own brilliance. Maya straightened her spine and looked Nathaniel Cross dead in the eye. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Cross," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. "But I have a policy against mixing business with pleasure. I'm sure you understand." She closed her portfolio with a decisive snap that echoed in the silent room. "If you'd like to discuss my career trajectory, we can schedule a meeting during business hours with HR present." The silence was deafening. You could have heard a stock certificate drop. 20 pairs of eyes went wide, darting between Maya and Nathaniel like they were watching a car crash in slow motion. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Something flashed in those steel-gray eyes. Surprise, definitely. Respect, maybe. Anger, probably. Then he smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who just discovered that the prey had claws and found the prospect infinitely more interesting than another easy kill. "Of course, Miss Richardson." His voice was smooth as aged whiskey. "Professional boundaries. Admirable." Maya gathered her materials and walked toward the door, every muscle in her body screaming at her to run while her pride demanded she maintain a measured pace. Her heels clicked on the marble floor with a rhythm that sounded like a countdown. Just as she reached the door, Nathaniel's voice carried across the room. "Derek, clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks. I have a new project that requires my full attention." Maya's stomach dropped like an express elevator. She'd just declared war on the most powerful man in Manhattan. Maya closed the door to her office and leaned against it, her heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. Her office. Small, yes, barely large enough for a desk, 2 chairs, and a filing cabinet, but it had real windows, and her name on the door. Maya Richardson, Senior Marketing Strategist. 2 years of grinding, of proving herself, of being the first to arrive and the last to leave, and she'd finally earned this space. Her phone started vibrating like it was having a seizure. "Girl." Janelle's voice exploded from the speaker before Maya could even say hello. "Everyone's talking about what you just did. Are you insane or brilliant?" "Maybe both," Maya muttered, sinking into her desk chair. "Maya, he's Nathaniel Cross. The Nathaniel Cross. He could have you fired with a snap of his fingers. Then let him. I'm not going to compromise everything I've worked for just because some billionaire decided I'm his flavor of the month." "That's my girl," Janelle said, but there was worry in her voice. "Just be careful, okay? These men don't like being told no." After Janelle hung up, Maya stared at the photo on her desk. Her mother, smiling at the camera at Maya's Columbia graduation. She'd been so proud that day. Her daughter, the first in their family to not just go to college but to attend an Ivy League school on a full scholarship. Her mother had died 2 years later. Cancer. Maya had been at work when it happened, chasing a promotion that suddenly meant nothing when she got the call. "Did I just destroy everything, Mama?" she whispered to the photo. A knock on her door made her look up. Victoria Ashford stood in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral. Victoria was VP of Operations, and one of the few black women in Sterling Global's upper management, which made her either Maya's greatest ally or her biggest competition, depending on the day. "Bold move," Victoria said, closing the door behind her. "He's either going to fire you, or I don't know what. Be careful, Maya. Everyone keeps telling me to be careful. Maybe he should be careful." Victoria's lips quirked. "That's the spirit. But seriously, Nathaniel Cross isn't used to hearing no. You just did something nobody else in this building has the guts to do. That makes you either very brave or very stupid." "I'm hoping it's the former." After Victoria left, Maya turned back to her computer, but she couldn't focus on the screen. Her hands were shaking. She'd worked too hard to get here. Brooklyn to Columbia to Sterling Global. Every step had been a battle. Every room she'd walked into, she'd had to prove she deserved to be there. She wasn't about to become another cautionary tale, another woman who'd thrown away her career for a man who'd forget her name in a month. But as she sat there, trying to steady her breathing, one thought kept circling through her mind. What had she just done? Nathaniel Cross stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office, looking out over Central Park as twilight painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The scotch in his hand was 60 years old and untouched. He poured it out of habit, but he had no interest in drinking it. His mind was elsewhere, on her. The door to his office opened without a knock. Only one person had that privilege. "You want to talk about what happened?" Derek Chen, his CFO and the closest thing Nathaniel had to a best friend, leaned against the doorframe with his arms crossed. She said no. Nathaniel's voice was flat, emotionless, the voice he used in hostile acquisition negotiations. "When's the last time someone told me no?" Maybe that's the point. Derek walked into the office and closed the door. "Maybe that's exactly why you can't stop thinking about her." "I don't think about her." Derek raised an eyebrow. They'd known each other since business school. Derek could read Nathaniel's lies better than most people could read a balance sheet. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. He turned back to the window, his reflection ghosting over the darkening cityscape. Maya Richardson wasn't scared of him, didn't want his money, didn't care about his power. She'd looked at him like he was an obstacle to her career, not an opportunity. And instead of being insulted, he was fascinated and infuriated. Because he'd spent 15 years building an empire, 15 years becoming the kind of man people feared and respected, 15 years making sure he never wanted anything he couldn't have. And now he wanted someone who just told him to go to hell in front of his entire board. His phone buzzed. Email notification. He glanced at the screen and felt his blood go cold. James Whitmore. Rival CEO who'd been circling Sterling Global like a shark for months. Subject: friendly conversation. Nothing friendly about it. Nathaniel opened the email and scanned the corporate doublespeak. Between the lines, the message was clear. Whitmore had acquired a significant position in sterling global stock. He was making his move. Perfect timing. Problem? Derek asked, reading Nathaniel's expression. Whitmore. Nathaniel set down his untouched scotch. He's coming for us. What do you need? I need my A-team focused. No distractions. No drama. Nathaniel turned from the window, including Maya Richardson, the woman you just asked out in front of the entire board. A momentary lapse in judgment. Right. Derek's tone made it clear he didn't believe that for a second. So what are you going to do? Nathaniel looked back out at the city, at the lights beginning to sparkle across Manhattan like scattered diamonds. What was he going to do? He was going to prove Maya Richardson wrong. She thought he was just another powerful man who'd move on to the next conquest. She thought he only wanted her because she'd said no. She thought she was another story women whispered about in bathrooms. She was wrong, and Nathaniel Cross always proved himself right. The elevator doors opened at 7 the next morning, and Maya stepped inside, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. She'd barely slept. Every time she'd closed her eyes, she'd replayed the conference room scene, imagining all the ways Nathaniel Cross could destroy her career. She hit the button for the 67th floor and leaned against the elevator wall, closing her eyes. Maybe she'd overreacted. Maybe she should have just said yes, gone to the dinner, kept things professional, and no, she'd done the right thing. She knew she'd done the right thing. She just had to keep believing it. The elevator doors started to close. A hand shot through the gap, and the doors jerked back open. Nathaniel Cross entered the elevator. Maya's heart stopped. He wore a navy suit today, white shirt, no tie yet. His hair was still slightly damp, like he'd come straight from the gym. He smelled like cedar and something expensive that probably came in a bottle that cost more than her entire wardrobe. The elevator doors closed with a soft hiss, just the two of them. 67 floors of forced proximity. Maya's pulse hammered in her throat. The elevator suddenly felt too small, the air too warm. Nathaniel stood near the control panel, not looking at her, but she could feel the weight of his presence like a physical thing. The mirror on the back wall showed them side by side, his height dwarfing her, despite her heels. Her professional composure versus his casual confidence. Floor 15, floor 20, floor 25. The silence stretched between them, like a wire pulled taut. Finally, Nathaniel spoke. I owe you an apology. Maya's head snapped toward him. I'm sorry? Yesterday. He still didn't look at her, watching the floor numbers climb. I put you in an uncomfortable position. It was inappropriate. Maya studied him, searching for the trap. She'd expected retaliation. Expected to be reassigned to some dead-end project in a basement office. Expected anything except accountability. Floor 40. She relaxed slightly. Apology accepted. Floor 45. For the record, Nathaniel said, finally turning to look at her, I wasn't asking as your boss. With respect, Mr. Cross, you're always my boss. That's the problem. Floor 50. Something shifted in his expression. He turned to face her fully, and Maya's breath caught at the intensity in his eyes. What if I wasn't? Her heart raced. What if you weren't what? Floor 55. Your boss. Would your answer be different? The elevator suddenly lurched to a stop. The lights flickered. An emergency speaker crackled to life overhead. Minor technical difficulty, folks. Sit tight. We'll have you moving in 5 minutes. Maya's stomach dropped. Trapped. She was trapped in an elevator with Nathaniel Cross. He didn't seem bothered by it. If anything, he looked almost pleased. So? He prompted. Would it be different? That's a hypothetical question. Humor me. Maya turned to face him, lifting her chin. If she was going to be stuck here, she wasn't going to back down. You want the truth? Always. The truth is, I don't date men who are used to getting everything they want. Men who think no is just a challenge to overcome. Men who... She paused, searching for the right words. I don't do this. Pursue. I've never had to. Nathaniel's admission caught her off guard. There was something almost vulnerable in his voice, though his expression remained controlled. "Maybe that's your problem," Maya said, the words coming out sharper than she intended. "You don't know how to want something you can't buy." His eyes flashed. "That's what you think of me. I don't know what to think of you, but I know what I think of myself, and I've worked too hard to become another story women whisper about in bathrooms. Did you hear what happened to that girl who thought she was special?" The elevator was silent except for the hum of machinery somewhere above them. Nathaniel watched her with an expression she couldn't read. "Who hurt you?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Who said anyone hurt me? Maybe I'm just smart enough to learn from watching." The elevator lurched back to life. The lights steadied. Floor numbers started climbing again. Floor 60, floor 63, floor 65. At floor 67, the doors opened with a soft chime. Nathaniel held her gaze for one more moment. "I'm not whoever you think I am." Maya stepped out of the elevator, her legs slightly unsteady. She turned back to look at him, framed in the elevator doorway like a portrait of power and control. "Then prove it," she said. The doors closed on his face. Maya walked toward her office, her heart still racing, her hands shaking slightly as she fumbled with her keys. She'd won that round. She'd held her ground. "Miss Richardson," she turned. Nathaniel's assistant, a sleek woman in her 50s who probably knew more company secrets than the entire board combined, smiled at her. "Mr. Cross wanted me to give you this." She held out a key card. "Your new parking space. Executive level. For your contributions to the Meridian campaign." Maya stared at the key card like it might bite her. "It's already been processed," the assistant continued. "Your name's on the spot and everything. Congratulations." She walked away before Maya could respond. Maya looked down at the key card in her hand, then back at the elevator where Nathaniel had disappeared. What the hell was he doing? Monday became Tuesday became Wednesday, and Maya found herself caught in the strangest corporate courtship she'd never asked for. Tuesday morning, she was invited to a strategy meeting she normally would have been excluded from. Not because she wasn't qualified, she was more qualified than half the people in that room, but because Sterling Global's upper management operated on unspoken hierarchies and invisible lines that Maya had spent 2 years learning to navigate. Nathaniel sat at the head of the conference table, and when the VP of Marketing started to mansplain basic consumer behavior theory, Nathaniel cut him off. "Miss Richardson, you actually worked on consumer sentiment analysis for the Meridian campaign. What's your take on this?" 20 heads swiveled toward her. Maya met Nathaniel's eyes. He wasn't smirking, wasn't making a show of it. He was genuinely asking her opinion, creating space for her expertise in a room where she'd usually be expected to stay silent. She spoke. She challenged the VP's assumptions. She presented data that contradicted his approach. And Nathaniel backed her up. When the meeting ended, Victoria pulled her aside. "What just happened in there?" "I have no idea," Maya admitted. "He's not trying to buy you," Victoria said slowly. "He's showing you respect. It's still manipulation. Maybe. But it's smart manipulation." Victoria studied her. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Wednesday morning, a coffee cart appeared on their floor. Maya learned about it when she stepped off the elevator and found a to-go cup waiting on the reception desk with a sticky note. "Oat milk latte, extra shot, cinnamon, fuel for brilliance." No signature. Didn't need one. Maya stared at the cup. It was her exact order. Down to the cinnamon, she always added, but never mentioned because it felt too particular, too specific, too revealing. He'd been paying attention. "Girl, this man is courting you," Janelle said when Maya called her at lunch. "Old school, romance novel, bring you coffee courting. It's manipulative. It's thoughtful. There's a difference. How can I tell which one it is? I don't know, babe. But I do know this. When Marcus started courting me, he showed up at my apartment with champagne and expected me to be impressed. This guy learned your coffee order and didn't even put his name on it. That's different." Maya hung up and stared at the coffee cup on her desk. She'd already drunk half of it. It was perfect. She hated that it was perfect. Thursday brought a company-wide email about a new mentorship program for emerging talent. Maya had been nominated to lead it. She read the email 3 times, looking for the catch. This was the kind of visibility she needed for the VP track. This was the kind of opportunity that usually went to someone with 5 more years of experience and the right golf club membership. Friday night, Maya was still at her desk at 9 p.m., reviewing Q4 projections, when Nathaniel appeared in her doorway with 2 containers of Chinese food. "You've been here 14 hours, he said, setting one container on her desk. "You need to eat." Maya looked up at him, her professional mask slipping for just a moment. She was exhausted. Her eyes hurt from staring at spreadsheets. Her back ached from sitting in the same position for too long. "How do you know how long I've been here?" "I notice things." He pulled up the chair across from her desk and opened his own container. "Sue me." They ate in silence for a few minutes. Maya watched him from the corner of her eye. He'd loosened his tie. His jacket was draped over his arm. He looked tired, human. "Why are you doing this?" she asked finally. "Eating dinner? All of it. The parking space, the meetings, the coffee, the mentorship program." "Why?" Nathaniel set down his chopsticks and looked at her directly. "Because you were right. In the elevator. I've never had to pursue anything. Everything I've wanted, I've been able to acquire. Companies, deals, even..." He paused. "Even relationships, if you can call them that. I'm not a company to be acquired." "I know. That's the point." He leaned back in his chair. "You said I don't know how to want something I can't buy. You're right. But maybe it's time I learned." Maya's heart was doing something complicated in her chest. This was dangerous. This moment, this conversation, this softness in his eyes that made her want to believe him. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why not you?" "That's not an answer." Nathaniel was quiet for a moment, and Maya watched something shift in his expression. The controlled mask cracked, just enough for her to see the exhaustion underneath, the loneliness. "I built this company from almost nothing," he said finally. "After my parents died, everyone expected me to fail, to sell off the pieces and take my trust fund and live a comfortable, meaningless life. Instead, I worked myself half to death, proving them wrong. 15 years of proving I was worth something beyond my last name." He picked up his chopsticks again but didn't eat, just turned them over in his hands. "And somewhere along the way, I forgot how to be a person. I became the CEO, the Ice King, the man who never loses. Everyone in my life wants something from me: money, power, connections, access. Everyone, except you." Maya's throat felt tight. "You don't know me well enough to say that, don't I? You turned down per se. You told me no in front of my entire board. You're terrified I'm going to derail your career. But you're still sitting here having Chinese food with me instead of running scared." He met her eyes. "You're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen an obstacle instead of an opportunity. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Maya did run then. Not physically, she stayed in her chair, stayed professional, but she felt herself retreating behind her own walls. "This doesn't change anything," she said. "I still have a policy about workplace relationships. I know, and you're still my boss. For now." She frowned. "What does that mean?" But Nathaniel just smiled and stood, gathering his empty container. "Good night, Miss Richardson. Don't stay too late." He left her sitting there, her food half-eaten, her mind spinning with questions she couldn't answer. Monday morning, 2 weeks after the rejection, as it had come to be known in Sterling Global's gossip circles, Maya walked into an emergency board meeting she hadn't been invited to. The email had come at 6 a.m. "All senior staff report to boardroom A immediately." The room was packed when she arrived. Every board member, every VP, every senior director. The air hummed with tension. James Whitmore stood at the presentation screen, looking like a shark who'd just smelled blood in the water. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Whitmore said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "I wanted to discuss the future of Sterling Global." Maya found a seat in the back row, her stomach knotting. She caught Nathaniel's eye across the room. His face was completely blank, but she could read the tension in his shoulders. Whitmore clicked to his first slide, a stock chart showing his acquisition of Sterling Global shares. As of this morning, I control 15% of Sterling Global's outstanding shares. I'm here to discuss what I believe is a critical leadership issue affecting this company's performance. The room went still. Whitmore clicked to the next slide, and Maya's breath caught. It was a photo of her and Nathaniel in the elevator. Someone had leaked security camera footage. The image captured them standing close, looking at each other with an intensity that couldn't be mistaken for anything professional. The headline, Ice King melts for marketing maven, workplace romance at Sterling Global. I don't bring this up to embarrass anyone, Whitmore said, his tone suggesting he was doing exactly that. But our CEO's recent distraction has coincided with a 3% drop in operational efficiency and missed targets in 2 key divisions. Lies. Maya knew the numbers. Sterling Global's performance had never been stronger. A distracted CEO is a liability, Whitmore continued. And I believe it's time we had a conversation about leadership succession. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Marcus Sterling, Nathaniel's uncle, sat at the far end of the table with an expression Maya couldn't quite read. Nathaniel stood slowly, his movements controlled. When he spoke, his voice was ice. My personal life is irrelevant to company performance. Our Q3 results exceeded projections across every division. Revenue is up 17% year over year. Operational efficiency has actually increased by 5% under the new strategies Miss Richardson's team implemented. Ah, yes, Miss Richardson. Whitmore turned to look directly at Maya, and she felt the weight of every eye in the room follow his gaze. Tell me, Mr. Cross, is it standard practice to promote employee girlfriends to lead company-wide initiatives? The room erupted in murmurs. Maya's hands clenched into fists under the table. She wanted to stand, to defend herself, but anything she said now would only make it worse. Miss Richardson earned every opportunity she's been given through exceptional performance, Nathaniel said, his voice deadly quiet. If you're suggesting otherwise, I suggest you consult with HR about our anti-discrimination policies. I'm not suggesting anything, Whitmore smiled. I'm stating facts. And the fact is, this company needs leadership that can separate professional judgment from personal entanglements. Marcus Sterling cleared his throat. All eyes turned to him. James raises valid concerns, Marcus said, and Maya saw something in Nathaniel's face crumble. His own uncle. As much as I respect my nephew's business acumen, I believe we need to discuss a vote of confidence in his continued leadership. The room erupted. Nathaniel stood frozen, his face a mask of control, but Maya could see the rage and betrayal burning beneath it. This is premature, Derek Chen jumped in. We have no evidence of compromised judgment. We have evidence of a CEO who's prioritizing romance over company stability, Whitmore interrupted. At a critical time, when we need focused, dedicated leadership. He clicked to another slide. This one showed timeline of the elevator photo. Nathaniel's schedule changes. Maya's rapid advancement. The pattern is clear. And didn't your father's distraction with your mother nearly bankrupt this company before the accident conveniently saved it? The room gasped. The blow was so low, so deliberately cruel, that several board members actually looked shocked. Maya watched Nathaniel's hands clench at his sides. His jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he might actually lose control. Instead, his voice came out quieter than before, more dangerous. This meeting is over. My lawyers will be in touch about your slander, Mr. Whitmore. He walked out without another word, but the damage was done. Maya could feel it in the room, the doubt, the whispers, the calculations. Marcus called out as people started gathering their things. The board will vote on Nathaniel's leadership in 2 weeks. I expect everyone to consider what's truly best for Sterling Global's future. Maya found Nathaniel in his office 20 minutes later, standing at the window with his back to the door. His shoulders were rigid, his hands clasped behind his back in a posture of military control. I'm sorry, she said. For what? He didn't turn around. For being used as a weapon against you. I'll put out a statement. I'll clarify to the board that there's no relationship that... Don't. Now he turned, and the look in his eyes stopped her mid-sentence. Don't Apologize for existing in my orbit. Don't make yourself smaller because small men feel threatened. Your board will fall in line or be replaced. This company is mine. I built it from my father's ashes and my mother's dreams, and I will not lose it because some corporate raider wants to weaponize gossip. The raw emotion in his voice took Maya's breath away. This was Nathaniel Cross, without any masks, without any shields. This was rage and fear and absolute determination. "What do you need from me?" she asked. "Nothing. You owe me nothing. This isn't your fight." It became my fight the moment he used my face in his presentation. Maya stepped closer. "Tell me what you need." Nathaniel studied her for a long moment. Then, "I need the Whitmore acquisition to fail. I need the board to see. I'm not distracted. I need—" He stopped himself. "What?" "I need you to stay. Don't quit, because this got messy. Don't let them drive you out. Don't," his voice caught, "don't prove my uncle right." It wasn't about romance anymore. It was about war. And Maya Richardson had never run from a fight in her life. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, her voice steady and certain. "Let's destroy this guy." Nathaniel's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Now you're speaking my language." A shadow appeared in the doorway. Marcus Sterling stood there, his expression unreadable. "Nathaniel, we need to talk, privately." Maya moved to leave, but Marcus held up a hand. "Actually, Miss Richardson should hear this too, since you're apparently now key to my nephew's decision-making." The disdain in his voice was a physical thing. "Careful, Uncle," Nathaniel warned. Marcus walked into the office, closing the door behind him. He looked at Maya with the kind of assessing gaze she'd seen 100 times, sizing her up, calculating her worth, determining whether she was threat or tool. "I've done research on you, Miss Richardson. Impressive credentials, scholarship student, self-made. Climbed from Brooklyn to Columbia to Sterling Global through sheer determination. Admirable, truly." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "But tell me, what happens when this little romance fizzles? When Nathaniel moves on to the next shiny object, as he inevitably will? Do you stay at Sterling Global, a constant reminder of his latest mistake? Or do you leave with a generous severance package and NDA, another cautionary tale for ambitious young women?" "Uncle, you're—" Maya cut Nathaniel off. She'd been silent long enough. "Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, there is no romance. Your nephew and I are colleagues working to protect this company from hostile takeover. If you're interpreting professional collaboration as something else, perhaps you should examine your own biases about what it means when a powerful man treats a woman as an intellectual equal." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Nathaniel, she's clever. I'll give you that. But clever girls are dangerous. They think they can play in our world without understanding the cost." "I understand cost better than you think," Maya said, her voice sharp. "I also understand value. And right now, this company's value is threatened by someone outside this room, not inside it. So perhaps we should focus on the actual enemy instead of creating internal conflicts that only serve Whitmore's agenda." Silence fell over the office. Marcus looked between them, his expression shifting from disdain to something like grudging respect. "She's got spine," he said finally. "Fine. What's the strategy?" As Marcus and Nathaniel began outlining the board politics at play, Maya felt Nathaniel's gaze on her. She'd just defended him to his uncle, stepped into his world, declared herself part of his team. She still didn't know if this was the biggest mistake of her career or the smartest move of her life. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. When she'd said, "Let's destroy this guy," Nathaniel Cross had made a decision that would change everything. She just didn't know what that decision was yet. The war room on Sterling Global's 67th floor had been transformed into Command Central. Whiteboards covered every available wall, filled with strategy diagrams, board member profiles, and financial projections. Empty coffee cups littered the conference table alongside laptops, legal pads, and the scattered remains of working meals. Maya stood at the main whiteboard, marker in hand, circling key points in their counter-strategy. 13 days until the board vote. 13 days to save Nathaniel's company and her career. "We need to shift the narrative," she said. Addressing the core team assembled around the table, Derek Chen sat at Nathaniel's right, taking notes on his tablet. Victoria Ashford had joined them as an ally, bringing insights into board politics that only came from years of navigating corporate minefields. 3 junior strategists rounded out the team, all looking exhausted but determined. The current story is, Distracted CEO Risks Company, Maya continued. We need to make it visionary leader evolves company culture. Frame Nathaniel's recent changes as strategic evolution, not romantic distraction. Nathaniel watched her from his seat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. They'd been working 16-hour days for the past week. Maya had seen him tired, stressed, vulnerable, had watched his carefully constructed masks slip when he thought no one was looking. She was starting to see the man beneath the Ice King reputation, and it terrified her. Maya's right, Derek said, breaking her train of thought. We control the narrative, or Whitmore does. I vote we control it. They worked until the building emptied around them. The cleaning crew came and went. The city lights sparkled through the windows like scattered stars. One by one, team members peeled off Victoria at 9, the junior strategists by 10. Derek held out until 11 before his wife texted him a photo of their sleeping kids with the caption, "They miss their dad." "Go," Nathaniel told him. "We've got this." Then it was just the 2 of them. Maya kicked off her heels and pulled her hair into a messy bun, all pretense of professional polish abandoned. Nathaniel had long since ditched his jacket and tie, shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that Maya definitely wasn't noticing. "This isn't working," she said, staring at the board presentation they'd been refining for hours. The slides were technically perfect, strategically sound, emotionally dead. Meaning, Nathaniel's voice was rough with exhaustion. "We're defending. We need to attack." Maya started pacing, the way she always did when her mind was racing faster than her mouth could keep up. "We don't just prove Whitmore's takeover would be bad for the company. We prove you're uniquely qualified to lead because of your personal qualities, not despite them." Nathaniel went very still. "Explain." "Look, Whitmore's entire angle is that you're cold, calculating, and now distracted by personal entanglements. We flip it. Show that you're evolving, becoming the leader Sterling Global needs for the next generation. Someone who values people as much as profits. That's image management. That's strategy. Nathaniel, you're brilliant at numbers. I've seen your quarterly reports. They read like poetry if you're into that sort of thing. But companies aren't spreadsheets. They're people. And people follow leaders they believe in, not just leaders they fear. He was watching her with that intense focus that made her feel like she was the only person in the world. "You don't fear me." "No. Should I? Most people do." Maya stopped pacing and turned to face him. "Most people are idiots." She sat on the edge of the conference table, closer than professional distance would dictate. The late hour and empty office made the air between them feel different, more honest, more dangerous. "You want to know what I see when I look at you?" His voice dropped an octave. "Tell me." "I see someone who built an empire from tragedy, who works harder than anyone I've ever met, who's lonely as hell but won't admit it because that's not what Ice Kings do." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I see someone who's terrified that if people see the real him, they'll realize he's not as invincible as the legend suggests." The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut. "You don't know me as well as you think," Nathaniel said finally. "Then prove me wrong." He stood abruptly, the movement sharp enough to make her pulse jump. He crossed to where she sat, closing the distance between them until she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. They were inches apart. She could feel the heat radiating off him, see the pulse beating at his throat, smell his cologne mixed with coffee and the particular scent of a long workday. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "You want to see the real me, Maya?" His voice was rough, raw, stripped of the professional polish he wore like armor. "The real me wants to kiss you so badly right now I can barely think straight. The real me has rewritten this presentation 6 times because I keep getting distracted by the way you bite your lip when you're thinking. The real me is fighting every instinct to cross this line because I know once I do, there's no going back." Maya's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't have moved if the building was on fire. "But," Nathaniel continued, And she watched him physically step back, watched the effort it took him to put space between them. The real me also respects you enough to not make a move while you're technically under my authority, while there's any question of power imbalance, while you might have a wonder if your career advancement was because of your talent or because you're sleeping with the boss. The air between them crackled with everything unsaid. So here's what I'm going to do, Nathaniel said, his voice steadier now, despite the storm she could see raging in his eyes. I'm going to win this board vote. I'm going to destroy Whitmore's takeover attempt. And then I'm going to step down as CEO. What? No. Derek takes over. I'll remain as chairman of the board. It's been the plan for years. We're just accelerating the timeline. He held her gaze, unwavering. And then, when there's no question of professional impropriety, no power dynamic, no career risk for you, I'm going to ask you to dinner again. And this time, I really hope you'll say yes. Before Maya could respond, before she could process what he'd just offered to sacrifice, Derek burst through the door. We've got a problem. Whitmore just poached 3 of our senior developers, offered them double their current salary. The intimate moment shattered like glass. But as they dove back into crisis mode, pulling up employee contracts and drafting retention offers, Maya's mind kept circling back to what Nathaniel had said. He was willing to give up the CEO position. For her. For a chance with her. It was the grandest gesture she'd ever heard, and the most terrifying, because now she had to ask herself the question she'd been avoiding for weeks. Was she running from workplace complications, or was she running from the fact that she was falling for Nathaniel Cross? By Wednesday, the media circus had reached fever pitch. Business Insider ran a feature story. Sterling Global in chaos, CEO romance scandal, or hostile takeover target. Maya's face was plastered across financial news sites alongside speculation that ranged from salacious to downright cruel. Social media was worse. Gold digger climbing the corporate ladder on her back. Another black woman using her sexuality to get ahead. Ice King's midlife crisis. She'll be gone in 6 months. Maya sat at her desk. Phone face down. Laptop closed. Trying to breathe through the knot of rage and hurt in her chest. Her phone buzzed. Janelle calling. Do not read the comments, Janelle said before Maya could even say hello. Twitter is a cesspool, and I'm 2 seconds away from throwing my phone in the Hudson. Too late. I read them. Oh, babe, I'm so sorry. Victoria appeared in Maya's doorway, knocked once, and entered without waiting for permission. Legal wants to know if you want to pursue defamation charges. Maya looked up at her mentor. Victoria's expression was carefully controlled, but Maya could see the anger simmering beneath it. She'd been where Maya was now. She knew exactly what it cost. Against the internet? Maya let out a bitter laugh. No. We stay focused on the board vote. Your call. But for what it's worth, I think you're handling this with more grace than most people would. After Victoria left, Maya sat alone in her office and let herself feel it. Every racist comment, every sexist assumption, every casual reduction of her intelligence, her work ethic, her achievements to a relationship that didn't even exist yet. It hurt, but she'd be damned if she'd let it break her. Thursday evening, Maya's phone rang with a Brooklyn area code she hadn't seen in weeks. Baby, I saw the news. Her aunt's voice was warm and worried. Are you okay? Do you need to come home? Home. The word hit Maya like a physical blow. When had she last been to Brooklyn? When had she last visited her mother's grave? She'd been so consumed with work, with Nathaniel, with this war, that she'd forgotten where she came from. That night, Maya took the subway to Greenwood Cemetery. The November air was cold enough to sting her lungs. Dead leaves crunched under her feet as she made her way through the historic cemetery to her mother's grave. The headstone was simple. Diane Richardson. Beloved mother, she taught me to fly. Maya sank down onto the cold ground, not caring about her expensive work clothes. Mama, I don't know what I'm doing, she whispered. You always said don't let any man derail your dreams. But what if he's not derailing them? What if he's different? The wind rustled through the bare trees. Maya closed her eyes and heard her mother's voice as clearly as if she was sitting beside her. Baby, the question isn't whether he's different. It's whether you're different with him. Do you like who you are when you're with him? Maya thought about the past weeks, how Nathaniel challenged her thinking, pushed her to be bolder in her strategies, how he made space for her brilliance instead of feeling threatened by it, how he listened when she spoke, remembered details she barely remembered sharing, respected her enough to step back even when stepping forward was what he wanted. She did like who she was with him. That was the terrifying part. Your mother? Maya's eyes snapped open. Marcus Sterling stood a few feet away, hands in the pockets of an expensive overcoat, looking entirely too comfortable in a cemetery at dusk. Do you make it a habit of following employees to cemeteries? Maya's voice was sharp with anger and violation. I make it a habit of understanding the people in my nephew's life. He moved closer, stopping a respectful distance from the grave. She raised a fighter. I respect that. If you're here to threaten me, I'm here to offer you $5 million to walk away. The words hung in the cold air between them. Maya stared at him, certain she'd misheard. Excuse me? I'm serious. $5 million, transferred to an account of your choosing today. You leave Sterling Global, sign an NDA, and disappear from Nathaniel's life. Start fresh, somewhere else, with the kind of financial security your mother never had. She'd be proud, don't you think? Her daughter honoring her memory by taking care of herself. Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides. You're using my dead mother to bribe me? I'm offering you a future, Miss Richardson. Be realistic. Nathaniel doesn't do love. He does obsession. And when the obsession fades, and it will fade, I've watched this pattern for 15 years, you'll be left with nothing but a ruined reputation and no career prospects. Take the money. Save yourself while you still can. Maya stood slowly, drawing herself up to her full height. She was still a foot shorter than Marcus Sterling, but she met his gaze without flinching. My mother taught me 3 things, she said, her voice deadly quiet. Work hard, stand up for yourself, and never, ever sell out. She took a step closer. So here's what you can do with your $5 million. You can take it, roll it up really tight, and shove it so far up You'll regret this, Marcus cut her off, his eyes narrowing. Maybe, but at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. Can you say the same? She walked away without looking back, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. She'd just made a very powerful enemy, but she'd kept her soul. Friday night bled into Saturday morning, and Maya was still at her desk, staring at spreadsheets that had long since blurred into meaningless numbers. The stress was catching up with her. 2 weeks of 16-hour days, media attacks, Marcus's bribe, the weight of knowing that one wrong move could destroy everything she'd worked for. It was crushing her. She didn't hear Nathaniel enter, didn't realize he was there until he spoke. You should go home. Maya looked up. Her vision was blurry, from exhaustion or tears, she wasn't sure. She quickly wiped at her eyes. I'm fine. Just reviewing Maya. The way he said her name stopped her mid-sentence. Like a prayer. Like she mattered. You're not fine. I'm handling it. You're allowed to not handle it. Just for a minute. Something in his voice, the gentleness, the understanding, the absence of judgment broke through the wall she'd been maintaining for weeks. The tears came, hot and fast and mortifying. She was crying in front of her boss, in front of Nathaniel Cross, in front of the man she was definitely, absolutely not falling for. Nathaniel crossed the room and, after a moment's hesitation, gently pulled her into his arms. Maya stiffened instinctively. She didn't do this. She didn't show weakness, didn't let people see her break. But his chest was solid and warm. His arms were strong and steady. And she was so tired of holding everything together, she let herself melt into him. Let herself have this one moment of weakness. I'm sorry, he murmured into her hair. I'm so sorry you're caught in this. I'm sorry people are attacking you. I'm sorry my world is so ugly. It's not your fault. Isn't it? You said no. I should have respected that and moved on. Instead, I pursued you. And now you're paying the price for my selfishness. Maya pulled back just enough to look up at him. I'm not a victim, Nathaniel. I made choices, too. I stayed. I fought. I said, let's destroy this guy. That's on me as much as it is on you. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing away tears with a gentleness that made her chest ache. You're the strongest person I've ever met, he said softly. Their faces were inches apart. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and Maya felt like she was drowning in them. The moment stretched, heavy with possibility and impossibility. Her phone buzzed on the desk, shattering the spell. Victoria's name flashed on the screen with a message, urgent. Whitmore just filed legal action claiming Sterling Global violated SEC regulations. Board meeting moved to Monday, 3 days. Reality crashed back like a bucket of ice water. Maya stepped out of Nathaniel's arms, already reaching for her laptop. We need to... I know. They worked until dawn, side by side, neither acknowledging what had almost happened, but the charge in the air remained, crackling between them like electricity. They were running out of time, in more ways than one. Saturday afternoon, Derek suggested they move their strategy session out of the city. We need fresh air, fresh perspective, and about 12 hours where we're not jumping at every email notification. He looked at Nathaniel. What about the Hamptons house? Nathaniel hesitated. Maya watched something flicker across his face. Vulnerability, maybe, or fear. The Hamptons house, he said finally. Fine. 2 hours later, Maya found herself in the back of Nathaniel's town car, watching the city give way to suburbs, then to the open highway, then to the exclusive beach communities of the Hamptons. The house took her breath away. Not because it was ostentatious. She'd expected marble columns and gold fixtures and the kind of vulgar display of wealth that screamed, "Look at me." Instead, it was a restored vintage cottage with weathered wood siding, blue shutters, and a wraparound porch that faced the ocean. Personal, lived in, human. This was my parents' house, Nathaniel said quietly as they pulled up the gravel driveway. The only place I kept after they died. Inside was even more surprising. The walls were covered with photos, young Nathaniel with his parents, family dinners around a worn kitchen table, beach days and birthday parties, and the evidence of a life lived with love. His mother's paintings hung in the living room. His father's sailing trophies lined the mantel. Maya walked through the house slowly, seeing Nathaniel in a completely different light. This wasn't the sterile perfection of his Tribeca penthouse. This was where he came to remember being loved. This was his heart, preserved in amber. They spread out across the living room, ocean visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. Derek and the rest of the team set up in the dining room, giving Maya and Nathaniel space to review board member profiles and plan their individual approaches. Except working was difficult when Maya was acutely aware of every breath Nathaniel took, every small shift in his posture, every time his knee accidentally brushed against hers on the couch. The sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Let's take a break, Derek called from the dining room. I'm making dinner. Nobody's allowed to work for at least an hour. Maya wandered out onto the deck, overlooking the ocean. November wind whipped her hair around her face, carrying the salt spray scent of the sea. The beach was empty, the waves rolling in with hypnotic rhythm. Nathaniel appeared beside her with 2 glasses of wine. Your parents had good taste, Maya said, accepting the glass. My mother did. She chose this place. His voice caught slightly. My father wanted something flashier, more impressive, something that would make a statement, Mum said. He paused, staring out at the darkening ocean. She said a home should hold happiness, not impress strangers. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the waves crash against the shore. Maya took a sip of wine and gathered her courage. Can I ask what happened? She said gently. You don't talk about the accident. Nathaniel took a long drink of wine. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I was 14. There was a company dinner in the city. Black tie thing. All the board members and investors. I was supposed to go, represent the family, show everyone that the Cross legacy was secure in the next generation. He kept his eyes on the horizon. But I was being a bratty teenager. I wanted to stay home, play video games with my friends. Normal kid stuff. Maya's heart clenched at the pain in his voice. We fought about it. I said terrible things. That I hated these events. Hated performing for people who only cared about our money. Hated being treated like a prop instead of a person. My mother, his voice cracked. My mother defended me. Told my father I could stay home, that she'd make my excuses. My father was furious. They left arguing because of me. The waves crashed below them, filling the silence. A drunk driver hit them on the highway. Killed them both instantly. His voice went flat, emotionless, the tone of someone who'd told this story to himself 1,000 times. If I'd just gone to the dinner like I was supposed to, if I hadn't been so selfish, if we hadn't fought, they would have left 20 minutes later, taken a different route. The drunk driver would have already passed. So many variables that all hinged on my tantrum. Nathaniel, that's not. My uncle told me at the funeral. Your selfishness killed them. The least you can do is honor their memory by being better than you were. He finally looked at her, and the naked pain in his eyes made her chest ache. So I did. I became the son they deserved. Perfect. Controlled. Never emotional. Never selfish. Never putting my own wants above duty. Never again. Maya saw it all clearly now. The Ice King wasn't armor, it was penance. His hands were shaking. Maya reached out and covered them with her own. I built this company because it's all I had left of them. Nathaniel continued, his voice barely above a whisper. Every deal, every success, every $1 billion, it's me trying to prove I'm worth what they lost. That their death wasn't for nothing. That I was worth their sacrifice. And relationships? Maya asked softly, already knowing the answer. How could I let myself be happy when I'm the reason they're not here? How could I be selfish enough to choose love over duty when my selfishness killed the two people who loved me most? Understanding flooded through Maya like cold water. That's why you've never let anyone in. I didn't deserve to. And when I rejected you, it confirmed what I already believed. That I'm not lovable without the power and money. That who I really am, broken, guilty, scared, isn't enough. Maya turned him to face her, forcing him to meet her eyes. Nathaniel Cross, you listen to me. You were a child. What happened was not your fault. Your uncle was cruel and wrong to weaponize your grief like that. But if I'd just stop, her voice was firm. Your mother defended you because that's what mothers do. They protect their children. They love them unconditionally. Even in death, she'd want you to forgive yourself, to be happy, to build a life instead of an empire made of guilt. His eyes were wet. This man who never showed emotion, who'd built walls so high nothing could penetrate them, was barely holding himself together. I don't know how to be happy, he whispered. I've forgotten how. Maya squeezed his hands. Then learn. Start small. Start now. What made you happy today? He looked at her like she was the light, breaking through decades of darkness. This, you, being here, feeling like maybe, just maybe, I could be someone other than the machine my uncle made me. Guys, Derek's voice called from inside the house, sharp with urgency. Whitmore's team just leaked fabricated financial documents to the press. We need damage control now. The vulnerability of the moment shattered. But as they rushed inside, Nathaniel caught Maya's hand for just a second. A brief squeeze that said more than words could. Thank you for seeing me. They worked through the night, systematically debunking the false documents, preparing statements for the press, calling in favors from financial journalists who owed them one. Maya kept glancing at Nathaniel, seeing him completely differently now. Not the Ice King. Not the billionaire CEO. Not the man who had everything. The broken boy who'd become a titan to atone for a sin that wasn't his. And she realized with terrifying clarity, she wasn't falling for him. She'd already fallen. Now the question was whether she was brave enough to admit it. And this is where everything gets impossibly complicated. What would you do if staying meant risking your career for a man who's rewriting every rule to have you, but leaving meant walking away from something that could change your life forever? Would you trust the vulnerable truth you just witnessed, or protect yourself from potential heartbreak? Let me know in the comments what you'd do in Maya's situation. Sunday morning arrived too soon. Maya woke on the living room couch with a blanket draped over her that she didn't remember getting. Early morning light filtered through the windows, painting everything in shades of grey and gold. Nathaniel stood on the deck with a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise over the ocean. Maya joined him silently. He handed her a cup of coffee without looking prepared exactly how she liked it, because of course he'd been paying attention. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked. "Didn't want to. Last sunrise before everything changes." He glanced at her. "Thank you. For last night. For listening. Thank you for trusting me." They stood in comfortable silence, the ocean breeze carrying the scent of salt and possibility. For one perfect moment, there was no board vote, no hostile takeover, no consequences. Just two people watching the sun rise. "Maya, after tomorrow." "Don't," she cut him off. "Don't make promises before the war is won." "I'm not promising. I'm stating intent." He turned to face her fully. "After tomorrow, assuming we win this vote, I'm stepping down as CEO. Derek takes over. And then I'm taking you to dinner. A real dinner. Not a strategy session, not a work obligation. Just us." Her heart hammered in her chest. "What if we lose?" "We won't. But if we do." His jaw set with determination. "Then I lose the company, but I refuse to lose you. I'll take you to dinner anyway. We'll figure out the rest." Maya's hands tightened around her coffee cup. "I can't do this." Nathaniel went very still. "Do what?" "Let you sacrifice everything. Your position, your legacy. Not for me. You've worked too hard. It's not just for you. It's for me." His voice was gentle but firm. "I should have made this change years ago. You just gave me the courage to finally do it. But you're doing it now because of me. And what happens when—" She stopped herself, the old fear rising up. "When what?" This was it. The moment. To be honest, or stay safe. Maya chose honesty. "In college, I had a boyfriend, Marcus." The name tasted bitter on her tongue. "We worked on my senior thesis together, a revolutionary marketing algorithm. Partnership, he called it, equals working toward a common goal." She gripped her coffee mug like a lifeline. "I did the research, the coding, the theoretical framework, the late nights running simulations and debugging code. Marcus did the presentation charm, showing up to meetings, schmoozing with professors, making connections. When it came time to present at a major conference, he put his name first on the paper. Got the recognition, the job offers, the acclaim. My work became his career launch." "What did you do?" Nathaniel's voice was carefully controlled. "I confronted him. He said I was being dramatic, that we'd worked on it together, so joint credit was fair. Never mind that 90% of the work was mine. Never mind that I'd given up sleep, health, social life, while he played networking games." She let out a bitter laugh. "I rewrote the entire thesis, improved the algorithm, presented the updated version at another conference. Got him exposed for plagiarism. He lost all his job offers. We both lost our relationship." The ocean waves filled the silence. "My mother told me I did the right thing. But she also said, 'Baby, be careful. Smart women threaten mediocre men, and powerful men collect brilliant women like trophies. Make sure you're chosen for your mind, not despite it.'" Maya finally looked at Nathaniel, letting him see all her fear and doubt. "So when you look at me, Nathaniel, what do you see? My marketing genius? My strategic mind? The skills I've spent years developing? Or do you see the woman who makes you feel something after years of feeling nothing? Because those are different things. One has value independent of you. The other only exists in your orbit. One is about me. The other is about what I can give you." Nathaniel set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. When he spoke, his voice was steady and sure. "I see Maya Richardson, the woman who said no when everyone else says yes, who doesn't need my money or my power, who called me on my bullshit and made me want to be better, not just more successful, who's brilliant and fierce and so terrified of being reduced to someone's accessory that she'd rather be alone than risk it. He stepped closer. You think I want to possess you? I want to stand beside you. You think I want a trophy? I want a partner. Someone who challenges me, who's my equal in every way that matters. Who makes me better by being exactly who she is. His voice dropped. That's what terrifies me, Maya. Not that you'll take advantage of my feelings. That I'm not enough for you. That when you see past the billions and the power, you'll realize I'm just a broken man trying to learn how to be human again. They were inches apart now. Ocean wind, sunrise, coffee and salt air. The moment stretched between them like a promise and a question. Maya's hand came up to his face, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw where she could feel his tension, his need, his carefully controlled restraint. You're enough, she whispered. You've always been enough. That's what scares me, because if I let myself have this have you, I don't know how to survive losing it. So we don't lose it. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight like hell to keep it. Keep you. Keep us. He leaned in. She didn't pull away. Their lips were inches apart, hearts pounding, the taste of coffee and possibility in the air between them. Maya's phone rang, shattering the moment like glass. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. Ignore it, Nathaniel said, his voice rough. I can't. She wouldn't call unless, Maya answered. Victoria's voice was tight with stress and anger. Janelle just called me. She's in the hospital. Some guy from Whitmore's team approached her at a bar last night. Seemed nice. Said he was a journalist doing a piece on workplace culture. Got her drunk. Started asking questions about you and Nathaniel. When she told him to fuck off, things got physical. She's okay. But Maya, they're targeting your people now. Maya's blood ran cold. They went after Janelle. Sweet, loyal, still healing Janelle, who'd almost broken the last time a powerful man hurt her. Nathaniel appeared in the doorway, reading her expression. What happened? They went after Janelle. Her voice shook with fury she could barely contain. Whitmore's people. They tried to use her to get dirt on me. When she wouldn't cooperate, they hurt her. Something dark and dangerous crossed Nathaniel's face. The Ice King returned, but colder than she'd ever seen. This wasn't the controlled businessman. This was something primal and terrifying. Pack up the team, he said, his voice deadly calm. We're going back to the city. Whitmore just made this personal, and he's about to learn what happens when you threaten someone I care about. The drive back to Manhattan was silent. Maya sat beside Nathaniel in the back of the town car, watching cold fury settle over him like armor. She'd wanted to see the real him. Now she was watching the dangerous him, the man who'd built an empire from nothing and would burn down anyone who threatened it. And she realized she'd just given him the most dangerous ammunition possible, someone to protect, because there was nothing more unstoppable than a man with something to lose. What Maya didn't know was that Nathaniel had just made a decision, one that would either save them both or destroy them completely. Sunday evening, Maya burst through the doors of Mount Sinai Hospital with Nathaniel close behind her. She found Janelle in a private room on the 4th floor, sitting up in bed with an ice pack pressed against her left cheek. Purple bruises bloomed across her jaw and neck like grotesque flowers. Her eyes were haunted. Oh, my God! Maya rushed to her friend's side. Janelle, I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down Janelle's face, and she winced at the movement. I'm so sorry, Maya. I screwed everything up. No, absolutely not. This is not your fault. He seemed nice, Janelle's voice cracked. Really nice. Said his name was David, that he was a journalist doing a piece on workplace culture in tech companies. We talked for like an hour about normal stuff, music, bad reality TV, whether pineapple belongs on pizza. I didn't realize until he started asking specific questions about you and Nathaniel. Details about your schedules, your relationship, whether you'd ever mentioned anything about company strategy. Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides. When I figured out what he was doing, I told him to fuck off. That's when Janelle touched her bruised cheek gingerly. He got aggressive, said I was going to answer his questions one way or another. Grabbed my arm, tried to drag me out of the bar. The bartender called the cops, but he got away before they arrived. Did you give them a description? Yeah, but I doubt they'll find him. He paid cash, gave a fake name, probably not even from New York. Janelle's eyes filled with fresh tears. I'm so sorry. This is exactly what happened last time, and I promised myself I'd never. Stop. Maya took her friend's hand carefully, mindful of the bruises. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Some bastard working for Whitmore did this, and he's going to pay for it. Nathaniel appeared in the doorway with 2 hospital security guards. Miss Martinez, you have a protective detail now. These gentlemen will be with you 24/7 until this situation is resolved. Janelle blinked at him. I can't afford. You're not paying. This is on Sterling Global. Nathaniel's voice was ice cold, but Maya could see the fury burning beneath the surface. Anyone associated with my company is under my protection. That includes friends of my employees, especially friends who were targeted because of their connection to this situation. One of the security guards stepped forward. We'll have someone posted outside your apartment, Miss Martinez, and we'll accompany you anywhere you need to go until Mr. Cross gives us the all-clear. After making sure Janelle was settled for the night, Maya promised to come back first thing in the morning. Nathaniel drove Maya home to Brooklyn. It was the first time he'd seen her apartment. Maya unlocked the door to her modest 1-bedroom in Park Slope, suddenly hyper-aware of how different her world was from his. The apartment was small but filled with life. Photos of her mother covered every available surface: graduation day, birthday dinners, the 2 of them laughing on the Brooklyn Bridge. Books overflowed from homemade shelves. Plants crowded the fire escape outside the window, somehow thriving despite her sporadic care. The furniture was mismatched thrift store finds, but everything was clean and comfortable and unmistakably hers. Nathaniel stood in the doorway, this powerful man suddenly looking out of place in her lived-in warmth. This is more you than that office, he said quietly. Maya kicked off her heels and tossed her keys on the small kitchen counter. This is home. The office is the performance. She rounded on him, the rage she'd been containing since Victoria's call finally breaking free. We have to end him. Not just win the board vote. Not just survive the hostile takeover. We have to end Whitmore completely. Agreed. Nathaniel closed the door behind him. I have lawyers who can. Lawyers take time. The board meets in 12 hours. We need something now. Today. Tonight. What are you thinking? Maya started pacing, her mind racing. I'm thinking Whitmore made a mistake. He threatened someone I love. When people get overconfident, when they think they've already won, they get sloppy. Nathaniel caught the phrase, someone you love. Janelle, obviously. But her eyes told a different story. He stepped closer. Maya, after tomorrow. Stop talking about after tomorrow like we've already won. Help me win. They worked through the night. Nathaniel ordered Chinese food from a place around the corner that Maya swore made the best dumplings in Brooklyn. They spread documents across her small kitchen table, financial records, legal filings, board member profiles, everything they had on Whitmore and his operation. Around 2 in the morning, Maya's eyes caught on something in the SEC filing Whitmore had submitted. Wait, look at this. She pulled the document closer, highlighting sections with a marker. The language. It's too specific about our internal processes. Someone on our board is feeding Whitmore information. Nathaniel leaned over her shoulder, reading the passages she'd marked. His cologne mixed with a scent of cold lo mein and strong coffee. Corporate governance procedures that aren't public knowledge. Financial review processes. Internal audit schedules. Exactly. Has to be someone with access to all of this. Someone who sits in on executive meetings, reviews financial documents, participates in strategic planning. They both said it at the same time. Marcus. Maya's phone buzzed. Derek, calling at 3 a.m. was never good news. Please tell me you've found something, Nathaniel said, putting the call on speaker. I found something. Derek's voice was tight with exhaustion and excitement. Marcus's personal assistant quit last week. Rebecca Santos worked for him for 3 years. She just reached out to me through a lawyer. Says she has records of communications between Marcus and Whitmore going back 6 months. Emails, phone logs, everything. She kept copies as insurance because she knew what Marcus was doing was wrong. What does she want? Immunity from any corporate espionage charges, a severance package, and protection. She's scared, Nathaniel, says Marcus threatened her when she tried to quit. Give her everything she's asking for. Get her to the board meeting with her lawyer and her evidence, whatever it costs. There was a pause on Derek's end. There's a complication. Marcus knows we're onto him. Victoria just texted me. Marcus called an emergency board meeting for 6 a.m., 4 hours from now. He's making his move before we can. Maya looked at the clock on her microwave. 3:17 a.m. So we have 4 hours to document Rebecca's testimony, prepare our counter-evidence, and get to the office before Marcus destroys everything. We're not going to sleep, are we? Maya asked. Nathaniel's smile was sharp. Sleep is for people not fighting for their lives. They worked with military precision. Derek arranged to meet Rebecca and her lawyer at an all-night diner in Midtown, getting her testimony on video and having her evidence authenticated by a notary. Victoria pulled strings to get financial forensics experts out of bed to verify the paper trail. Maya drafted the presentation while Nathaniel made calls to board members, waking them up with carefully worded warnings about Marcus's emergency meeting. As dawn broke over Brooklyn, painting Maya's small apartment in shades of pink and gold, she realized something. Nathaniel had been here all night, in her space. Seeing her without makeup, in sweatpants and an oversized Columbia t-shirt, eating cold lo mein at 3 in the morning, stress-crying when they hit dead ends in the evidence, laughing when Derek sent them a gif of a cat knocking papers off a desk with the caption, Marcus's career in 4 hours. He'd seen her, the real her, not the polished professional who walked into Sterling Global every morning in designer blazers and perfect hair, the messy, stressed, fully human version of Maya Richardson. And he was still here. What? Nathaniel asked, noticing her staring at him. You're still here. Where else would I be? I mean, she gestured at herself, at the apartment, at the chaos of the past 12 hours. You saw me at my worst, messy, stressed, crying over fried rice because I was so tired I couldn't remember if we'd already covered the financial disclosures section. Nathaniel crossed the small kitchen and took her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. Maya, that's not your worst. That's you being human, and you're beautiful. Her throat tightened. Nathaniel, I've spent 15 years being perfect, being controlled, never letting anyone see me tired or stressed or uncertain. It's exhausting, and it's lonely. Watching you just be yourself, watching you cry and laugh and get angry and keep fighting anyway. That's not weakness. That's strength I've never had. Maya's phone buzzed. Victoria, Rebecca's at the office with her lawyer. We're ready. See you in 30. Reality crashed back. Maya stepped away from Nathaniel and headed to her bedroom to change. As she pulled out her armor, the black Armani suit she saved for battles, the heels that made her tall enough to look men in the eye, the confidence she wore like a second skin, she felt the weight of what was coming. In a few hours, they'd either win or lose everything. But standing in her small Brooklyn apartment, watching Nathaniel Cross knot his tie in her bathroom mirror like they'd done this 1,000 times, she realized something fundamental had changed. Win or lose, she was all in. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 6 a.m., but Maya and Nathaniel arrived at 5:45 to find the conference room already packed. All 15 board members sat around the table, most of them looking distinctly unhappy about being dragged out of bed before dawn. Legal team representatives lined the back wall. Victoria stood near the presentation screen, her expression carefully neutral. Derek sat at the far end of the table with his laptop open, ready to present their evidence. And at the head of the table, looking smug and entirely too comfortable, sat Marcus Sterling. Maya and Nathaniel entered together. The optics weren't lost on anyone. They'd clearly spent the night working together, arriving in the same car, presenting a united front. Let them speculate. Maya was done caring. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, Marcus began, his voice carrying the weight of false concern. I know it's early, but I felt this couldn't wait. I've called this meeting because I can no longer stand by in silence while my nephew destroys everything our family built. He clicked to his first slide a timeline of Nathaniel's erratic behavior over the past month. The dinner invitation. The leaked elevator photo. Maya's rapid advancement. Changes to company policy. The Whitmore situation. A distracted CEO is a liability, Marcus continued. And I believe it's time we had a serious conversation about whether Nathaniel is fit to continue leading Sterling Global. The board members shifted uncomfortably. This was the kind of family drama that destroyed companies. These are serious allegations, Board Chairman Patricia Chen said carefully. Nathaniel, would you like to respond? Nathaniel stood slowly. The Ice King in full effect, perfectly controlled, devastatingly calm. But Maya could see something different in him now. A warmth beneath the cold. A humanity he'd finally learned to show. My uncle is right about one thing, Nathaniel said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. I have been distracted by the realization that I've spent 15 years building an empire while forgetting how to build a life. Distracted by a company culture that prioritized profit over people. Distracted by meeting someone who made me want to be better than the machine everyone expects me to be. He looked directly at Maya. But being distracted by Maya Richardson is the best thing that's ever happened to this company. She's the reason we identified Whitmore's hostile takeover attempt early enough to mount a defense. She's the reason we have a comprehensive counter-strategy. She's the reason I'm standing here today with the courage to admit that I don't want to be CEO anymore, not because I'm weak, but because I'm finally strong enough to choose what I want instead of what I should want. Murmurs rippled around the table. Derek Chen will be an excellent CEO. I'll remain as chairman of the board, providing strategic oversight and vision without the operational stress that has, admittedly, been affecting my personal life. This transition has been planned for 3 years. We're simply executing it earlier than originally scheduled. Marcus's smile was sharp. How convenient. You stepped down right as Miss Richardson would be facing ethics violations for dating her direct superior. Very neat, very tidy. Maya stood, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Mr. Sterling, with respect, your sudden concern about ethics is touching, especially considering, she nodded to Derek. Derek's fingers flew over his keyboard. The presentation screen lit up with emails, financial records, phone logs, especially considering you've been in direct communication with James Whitmore for the past 6 months, providing proprietary information, facilitating his hostile takeover attempt. All documented here, including testimony from your former assistant Rebecca Santos, who's currently in this building with her lawyer and federal investigators. The room exploded. Board members started talking over each other. Patricia Chen banged her gavel, calling for order. Marcus's face went from smug to pale to flushed red in the span of seconds. This is fabricated, Marcus sputtered. A desperate attempt to... It's time-stamped, authenticated, and corroborated by phone records your assistant kept as insurance when she realized what you were doing. Maya's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. You tried to destroy your own nephew to seize control of this company. You put Sterling Global at risk of a hostile takeover to serve your own ambitions. That's not concern for the company's well-being. That's corporate treason. You self-righteous little... Marcus caught himself, but the rage was already visible. He stood, shaking with fury. Fine. You want the truth? I'll give you the truth. He rounded on Nathaniel, and Maya saw something break in the older man's carefully constructed facade. Your father was weak. He built this company on emotion and sentiment and almost bankrupted it twice. I saved it. Me. I'm the one who made the hard decisions, who cut the dead weight, who turned Sterling Global into the powerhouse it is today. And when he died in that accident, probably because he was too distracted by your mother to pay attention to the road, I rebuilt it through you. The room went dead silent. I made you into something useful, cold, strategic, effective. You were perfect. The perfect tool to build the perfect company. Until she showed up. Marcus pointed at Maya with visible contempt. Do you know why I really oppose this relationship? Because she reminds you of your mother. That weakness, that warmth, that emotional indulgence that nearly destroyed everything your father built. Maya watched Nathaniel's face, saw the hurt, the anger, the betrayal. And beneath it all, the steel. My mother wasn't weak, Nathaniel said, his voice deadly quiet. She was the strongest person I've ever known. She built a home that held happiness instead of just displaying wealth. She loved fiercely and without reservation. She defended me when I needed defending and challenged me when I needed challenging. He took a step toward his uncle. And you know what she would say about you, Uncle Marcus? She'd say you turned a tragedy into a weapon. You used a grieving 14-year-old boy's guilt to create a tool. You built an empire on my pain and called it love. Well, I'm done being your tool. I'm done building empires out of guilt. I'm done being the machine you made me. The board members sat frozen, witnesses to a family's private war. This board has a choice, Nathaniel continued, addressing the room. You can vote to remove me based on my uncle's accusations, knowing that you'll be fighting legal battles for years over his betrayal and corporate espionage. Or you can accept my voluntary transition to chairman, remove Marcus Sterling from the board pending a full investigation, and allow this company to move forward stronger than before. Patricia Chen exchanged glances with the other board members. Maya held her breath. I move that we accept Nathaniel Cross's proposed transition plan and immediately remove Marcus Sterling from the board pending investigation into the allegations of corporate espionage and fiduciary misconduct. Second came from 3 board members simultaneously. All in favor? Every hand in the room went up. Even the legal team members who technically couldn't vote nodded their support. The motion carries. Marcus, you're to leave this building immediately. Security will escort you out. Your access to all company systems and information has been terminated as of this moment. 2 security guards appeared at the door as if summoned. Marcus stood there, shaking with impotent rage, staring at Nathaniel with something between hatred and disbelief. You'll regret this, both of you. You think you've won. This is just the beginning. No, Uncle, Nathaniel said quietly. This is the end. And I should have done it 15 years ago. They watched Marcus Sterling being escorted from the building, his threats and curses fading as the elevator doors closed on his face. The conference room slowly emptied, board members murmuring among themselves, legal team members already on their phones preparing for the investigation that would follow. Finally, it was just Maya and Nathaniel. He collapsed into his chair, adrenaline draining away like water through a sieve. His hands were shaking. His perfect composure was gone. We did it, he said, sounding almost surprised. Maya sat beside him. You did it. That speech, the vulnerability, standing up to Marcus. Your mother would be so proud. I'm terrified. Of what? Everything. He turned to look at her. Not being CEO. Marcus's betrayal. Whitmore's next move. He paused. Mostly, I'm terrified you'll realize I'm just a man now. No title, no power, no reason for you to stop. Maya took his hand. Nathaniel Cross, you listen to me. You have never been impressive because of your title. You're impressive because you wake up every single day and choose to be better than the broken boy your uncle tried to create. Because you're brilliant and kind and so terrified of showing vulnerability that watching you do it is like watching something impossible become real. She squeezed his hand. I rejected you because I was scared, not of losing my job, of losing myself, of becoming another woman who sacrificed her identity for a powerful man. But here's what I've learned over the past month. You don't want me to sacrifice anything. You want to build something together. Equal partners. His eyes were intense, searching her face. What are you saying? I'm saying take me to dinner, Nathaniel Cross. A real dinner. The kind where we talk about everything except work. Where we figure out who we are when we're not fighting wars. He stood, pulling her up with him. Right now, it's 8 in the morning. We just won the battle. Seems like perfect timing. Restaurants aren't open. Then take me to breakfast. Coffee. A hot dog cart. I don't care. Just take me somewhere where the only agenda is us. He cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones, his eyes searching hers for any doubt. You're sure? Once we do this, once we cross this line. I'm terrified, Maya admitted. But I'm sure. He kissed her. Finally. After weeks of tension and near misses and fighting side by side and barely controlled wanting, he kissed her. It was desperate and gentle and fierce and tender all at once. It tasted like coffee and victory and new beginnings. Maya's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, pouring weeks of fear and desire, and choosing him into the kiss. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Maya laughed breathlessly. That was... yeah, we should probably... definitely. The door opened. Patricia Chen stood there, looking distinctly uncomfortable at having interrupted. Sorry, but the press is downstairs. We need a unified statement about the leadership transition and Marcus's removal. Maya, since you're apparently part of this now, we'd like you present at the press conference. Reality crashed back. But it was different this time. Maya looked at Nathaniel. He looked back at her. And without saying a word, they reached for each other's hands. Together. And if you think this was intense, next week's story is going to absolutely wreck you. I'm talking about a woman who ghostwrites love letters for CEOs, until she accidentally sends a real one to her ex-husband, who just got engaged to her sister. Betrayal, second chances, and one very public wedding disaster. Hit subscribe so you don't miss I Wrote His Vows. Then realized the groom was mine. The press conference was a carefully orchestrated performance. Nathaniel and Maya stood at the podium alongside Derek and Patricia Chen. Professional distance between them, but everyone in the room could see the change. The way they stood slightly angled toward each other. The way Nathaniel's eyes sought Maya's when a question got too aggressive. Nathaniel announced his transition to chairman, Derek's promotion to CEO, Marcus's removal pending investigation, and Sterling Global's continued strength and stability. A reporter from the Financial Times raised her hand. Mr. Cross, what about your relationship with Miss Richardson? Isn't that what started this entire situation? Maya stepped to the microphone before Nathaniel could respond. My relationship with Nathaniel Cross is personal, and no one's business but our own. What is everyone's business is that I'm a damn good marketing strategist who helped identify and counter a hostile takeover attempt that could have cost this company billions. I'd appreciate if future questions focused on my professional qualifications rather than speculation about my personal life. A Business Insider reporter jumped in. Miss Richardson, sources say you're being promoted to VP of Marketing, effective immediately. Any comment on whether that's related to your personal relationship with Mr. Cross? Maya looked at Nathaniel. He was smiling at her, that small, private smile that made her heart do complicated things. I'm honored by the promotion, and yes, I earned it. Through the Meridian campaign that brought in $300 million in new contracts, through strategic planning that helped protect this company, and through 10 years of grinding my way from Brooklyn to Columbia to Sterling Global. She stared down the assembled press. Any other questions about my qualifications? Or would you like to discuss the actual news here, which is Sterling Global's successful defense against corporate espionage and hostile takeover? Silence. Then, grudgingly, respect. The questions shifted to safer territory, the leadership transition, Derek's vision for the company, what charges Marcus might face. Maya stood beside Nathaniel and let herself feel it. They'd won. That evening, Nathaniel picked Maya up at her Brooklyn apartment, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. Human clothes. Not a suit in sight. Where are we going? Maya asked, locking her door. You'll see. He drove her 3 blocks to a tiny Italian restaurant with checkered tablecloths and Sinatra playing on an ancient sound system, the kind of place that had been in the neighborhood for 40 years and would hopefully be there for 40 more. Mama Rosa's. Maya stopped dead. How did you mentioned it once. After that late meeting in September when we were reviewing the Q3 projections, you were exhausted and frustrated, and you said your mum used to bring you here to celebrate achievements, fettuccine, Alfredo, and tiramisu, and feeling like you could conquer the world. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. You remembered that? From a throwaway comment 3 months ago? I remember everything about you, Maya. The owner, Rosa herself, greeted them at the door with a kind of warm Italian enthusiasm that made you feel like family. She sat them at a corner table with a view of the tiny kitchen where her son was already preparing their meal. They talked about everything except work. Childhoods and dreams and embarrassing high school stories. Favorite movies and terrible karaoke experiences and whether cilantro tasted like soap. where they saw themselves in 10 years, what happiness looked like. It was easy, natural, like they'd been doing this forever instead of for the first time. Over tiramisu and coffee, Nathaniel grew serious. I need to tell you something. Maya's heart skipped. Okay, the name Cross. It's not really my name. I mean, it is legally, but it wasn't my choice. He rotated his wine glass, not quite meeting her eyes. My father's name was James Cross. My mother's maiden name was Richardson, Amelia Richardson. Maya went very still. Richardson. When they got married, my mother wanted to keep her name. She was a Richardson, proud of her family, proud of who she was. But my father insisted she take his name, said it was tradition, that it looked better for business, that people wouldn't respect a CEO whose wife kept her own name. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. She gave in, but she was never happy about it. Used to joke that she'd lost part of her identity when she signed that marriage certificate. He finally looked at Maya, and the vulnerability in his eyes took her breath away. I've spent 15 years being Cross, building the Cross Empire, becoming the man my uncle demanded I be. Cold, strategic, untouchable. But Cross isn't who I am. It's who I was forced to become. It's guilt and duty and pain wrapped up in 6 letters. And Richardson? Maya asked softly. Richardson was warmth. Richardson was my mother choosing to defend me even when it cost her. Richardson was family dinners and laughter and homes that held happiness. Richardson was love without conditions. He reached across the table and took her hand. Your family, maybe distantly. Warm and creative and alive. Everything I want to be. Everything I'm trying to become. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. Nathaniel, when we get married, he caught himself, laughed nervously. If we get married. Someday. Way down the line, after many more dates and me earning your trust and you being absolutely sure. Nathaniel, I want to take your name, be Nathaniel Richardson. Honor my mother by reclaiming the name she gave up. Honor you by choosing partnership over legacy. Choose warmth over cold. Choose the man I want to be over the machine I was made to be. Maya was crying openly now. You'd give up the Cross legacy? The name that built Sterling Global? The company's already built. Derek will run it as Sterling Global. But me, I want to build something new, something ours. Something that isn't built on guilt or duty or my uncle's manipulation. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. I want to be Nathaniel Richardson. If you'll have me. Eventually. Someday. When you're ready. Maya laughed through her tears. Did you just propose on our first date? No. God. No. I'm just stating future intentions. Very future intentions. I'm terrible at this. You're perfect at this. She reached across the table with her other hand, holding both of his now. And for the record? When the time comes, years from now, after we've figured this out, and I'm absolutely sure, and you've proven you can handle my terrible singing in the shower, my answer will be yes. To the partnership, to the name, to all of it. Nathaniel's phone rang, shattering the moment. Derek's name flashed on the screen. He ignored it. It rang again, and again. I'm sorry, I have to, he answered, his expression shifting as he listened. What? When? We'll be right there. Maya's stomach dropped. What happened? Whitmore just filed for bankruptcy. His hostile takeover attempt collapsed completely when his major investors pulled out. Apparently, our exposure of Marcus revealed that Whitmore's entire operation was funded through illegal offshore accounts. The SEC is investigating. He's done. Maya blinked. That's good news? Very good news. Except, in his bankruptcy filing, he's claiming I orchestrated corporate espionage, that I deliberately sabotaged his company, that this whole thing was a setup. It's baseless, but it's going to be a messy legal fight that could drag on for years. They looked at each other across the table, reality intruding on their perfect moment. Maya started laughing. She couldn't help it. So, not exactly riding off into the sunset, more like riding into court dates and depositions and legal battles. She laughed harder. Nathaniel joined her. Two people who'd been through war, choosing to find humor in more battles ahead. "You know what?" Maya said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "Bring it on. We've handled everything else. We can handle this. Together. Together." 3 months later, Saturday morning, their apartment. The Brooklyn apartment had transformed in small, almost invisible ways. Nathaniel's suits hung beside Maya's blazers in the closet. His coffee mug, a ridiculous thing Derek had given him as a joke that said "World's okayest chairman," sat next to hers in the dish rack. His parents' photo from the Hamptons house now shared shelf space with pictures of Maya's mother. The Tribeca penthouse sat empty, a monument to a life he'd outgrown. This cramped one-bedroom with its creaky floors and temperamental radiator, this was home. Nathaniel stood at the kitchen counter, measuring coffee with the precision of someone who'd finally learned that some rituals were worth mastering. Maya sat at their small dining table. They'd had to move it 3 times to find a spot where it didn't block the bathroom door, her laptop open, glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed marketing proposals for Q1. She was beautiful like this. Real. Not the polished VP who walked into Sterling Global headquarters every morning, but the woman who wore his old Columbia t-shirt as pajamas and forgot to brush her hair until noon on Saturdays. His phone buzzed on the counter. Text from Derek. "Board approved your chairman compensation package. You're officially poor by billionaire standards. Congratulations. Welcome to the middle class. We have cookies." Nathaniel smiled. He donated 90% of his fortune to the Maya Richardson Memorial Scholarship Fund, full rides to Columbia for students from low-income families who wanted to study business or marketing. The first class of recipients would start next fall. 20 brilliant kids who reminded him of Maya, hungry and determined and deserving of a chance. He'd kept enough to be comfortable, to contribute to rent, to take Maya to dinner without calculating tips. By most standards, he was still wealthy. By his old standards, he was practically destitute. He'd never been happier. "What are you smiling about?" Maya asked without looking up from her screen. "Just appreciating the view." He brought her coffee, prepared exactly the way she liked it, a ritual he'd perfected over 3 months of domestic bliss. "So, dinner with Janelle tonight. She's bringing her new girlfriend." Maya looked up, grinning. "The physical therapist from the hospital? Apparently being assigned a 24/7 bodyguard has its romantic perks. Who knew corporate espionage could be a dating service?" Maya laughed, the sound filling their small apartment with warmth. At least something good came from that nightmare. Nathaniel sat beside her, their knees touching under the table in the way they always did, now constantly connected, always touching. Everything good came from that nightmare. "I got you. Sap. Your sap." She kissed him, tasting like coffee and morning and home. "Forever?" she asked. The question they'd started asking each other somewhere around week 2, when forever stopped feeling like a threat and started feeling like a promise. "Forever," he confirmed. That afternoon, Central Park. They walked through Central Park, hand in hand. Anonymous in the Saturday afternoon crowd, no one recognized the former CEO and his VP of marketing. They were just another couple enjoying the autumn leaves, the unseasonably warm November sun, the precious ordinariness of a Saturday afternoon with nowhere to be. Maya had learned to cherish these moments. 3 months of peace after the chaos. 3 months of building something real instead of fighting wars. 3 months of learning who they were when they weren't strategizing or surviving or proving themselves. They were good at this. The quiet, the simple, the real. Her phone rang, shattering the peaceful moment. Unknown number. She almost declined. But something made her answer. "Miss Richardson?" The voice was elderly, refined, and vaguely familiar in a way Maya couldn't place. "This is Helen Cross, Nathaniel's grandmother. I believe we need to meet." Maya's steps faltered. She looked at Nathaniel, whose entire body had gone rigid. He hadn't spoken to his paternal grandmother in over 10 years. Not since the funeral, when Helen had looked at 14-year-old Nathaniel and said, "If you'd just done what you were supposed to do, they'd still be alive." "She wants to meet me," Maya mouthed. Nathaniel took the phone from her hand, his jaw tight. "Grandmother, what do you want?" Maya watched his face as he listened, watched Surprise, chase, confusion, chase something vulnerable and almost hopeful across his features. His hand tightened on hers. When? He asked. Pause. Fine. Next Saturday. But I'm bringing Maya, and if you say one word to hurt her, we're leaving. Are we clear? Another pause. Something in his expression softened fractionally. Okay. Yes. We'll see you then. He hung up and stared at Maya like he was seeing her for the first time. What? She asked, her heart hammering. What did she say? My grandmother says. He stopped, shook his head like he couldn't quite believe it. She says my mother had a sister, an aunt I never knew existed because she and my grandfather had a falling out before I was born. Some family drama my mother never talked about. That aunt, her name was Patricia, had a daughter named Diane. Maya's world tilted. Diane? Who had a daughter named Maya. They stared at each other in the middle of Central Park, people flowing around them like water around stones. No, Maya said. My grandmother had my mother's family tree researched after she saw the news coverage. Maya, we might actually be distantly related. Third cousins through the Richardson line. Your mother and my mother were cousins. Maya started laughing. She couldn't help it. The sound burst out of her, half hysterical, completely overwhelmed. Of course we are, she gasped between laughs. Of course. Because nothing about us has been simple or normal or remotely straightforward. We had to fight a hostile takeover and corporate espionage and your uncle and the entire board, and now we find out we're related? Nathaniel started laughing too, the sound mixing with hers until they were both doubled over on a park bench, gasping for air, drawing curious looks from passers-by. Does this change anything? Nathaniel asked when they'd finally caught their breath, but there was real worry beneath the question. Maya considered, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. We're what, third cousins twice removed? In New York, in most of America, that's perfectly legal. Barely even counts as related. Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt were fifth cousins, and nobody cared. So we're good? We're perfect. She pulled him down for a kiss, not caring who saw. Besides, this gives your name choice even more meaning. You're not just taking my name. You're coming home to your actual family line. Your mother's family. The Richardsons who were warm and creative and alive. You're reclaiming your heritage. Nathaniel's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Coming home, he repeated softly. I like that. They stood, still holding hands, and started walking again. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the park in shades of gold. Thank you, Nathaniel said suddenly, stopping to face her. For what? For saying no. That first time in the conference room, you made me work for this, made me become someone worthy of you. Maya reached up to cup his face, feeling the slight stubble he'd forgotten to shave that morning, the warmth of his skin, the realness of him. You were always worthy, Nathaniel Richardson. She used the name deliberately, trying it out. You just had to believe it. She kissed him there in Central Park, surrounded by autumn leaves and afternoon sunlight, and the promise of family they'd thought they'd lost. Of battles yet to come, Whitmore's lawyers, Helen's mysterious reasons for reaching out, the ongoing investigation into Marcus, the everyday challenges of building a life together. But they'd face them together, equal partners, Maya Richardson and Nathaniel Cross, who would someday, maybe next year, maybe in 5 years, whenever they were ready, become Nathaniel and Maya Richardson, two people who'd found each other by fighting each other, who'd built something real in the middle of a war, who'd chosen partnership over power, warmth over wealth, and love over legacy. They walked away hand in hand, disappearing into the crowd, just another couple in love in New York City. Ordinary, anonymous, free, home. So tell me, would you let a billionaire take your last name? Or is Maya's family connection what makes it romantic instead of problematic? Team Richardson for both, or team keep separate identities? And what do you think Nathaniel's grandmother wants, after 10 years of silence? Is she blessing the relationship, or about to reveal another family secret that changes everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you loved watching Maya and Nathaniel fight their way to each other, smash that like button, subscribe for more impossible romance stories, and buckle up because next week's tale is going to absolutely wreck you in the best way possible. I'm talking about a woman who ghost writes love letters for CEOs until she accidentally sends a real one to her ex-husband who just got engaged to her sister. Betrayal, second chances, and one very public wedding disaster you have to see to believe. Hit subscribe so you don't miss I Wrote His Vows, then realize the groom was mine. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best love stories start with the word no.